On this episode, holy shit, did it. Play the music. And the pod today is for two purposes, to celebrate the freaking Dallas Mavs coming out of nowhere, admittedly eating crow myself, my Homer self, laying them out to pasture, and preparation for game 6, which is on Friday in Dallas. Brian and I are recording this on Thursday, so the game is going to be tomorrow. More than likely, this is uploading. You're listening to it on game day, so we'll have some preparation and all that good stuff. So before we get to it, Brian, how's it going, my man? How are you?
Good, man. I'm extremely good. Like you said, eating crow, because we both said the same thing, which was there was no way. But I don't think either one of us thought for a second that he was going to be nearly as healthy as he was. It'd be able to, I guess a few days rest really did him good. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's the one. I think that's the best thing that both of us can say is that we, for our listeners if this is not your first pod, you heard Brian and I discussing last game, what we thought it would take to kind of be more competitive and have a chance. Both of us felt like the Mavs weren't going to be able to win, because just Luka looked so off and so bad and in so much pain. And we just did not think that the Mavs doctors could get it done like they did. I mean, holy crap. He looked like he did the first 2 games. And Boban and Powell were 2 huckleberries that we said needed to get minutes. And sure enough, Rick went that way. And, spoiler alert, those 2 played very, very, very huge parts in the first quarter for Boban and the third quarter for Powell. So let's celebrate it, man. The Mavs won. So 82% of the teams that win game 5 win the series when it's always tied. If it's tied 2-2, that is.
Sure.
So the Mavs have 2 chances. One in Dallas, which would be the Mavs in 6 prediction that I laid out. Or they have LA. The Mavs will play Sunday 100% regardless if they win or lose. Or I'm sorry. Yes, if they win or lose, because it's either game 7 versus LA at 2:30 on Sunday, or it's game 1 versus Utah at 2:30. Same time, everything. They're either surfing or skiing. That's not right. They're doing something, but one of those 2 cities. So so let's talk about game 5 and what we saw. And I'll let you go now. I've talked a bit.
Well, I mean, look, before we get into all of the smaller points that made such a big deal, obviously Luka, right? I would argue, probably, given what was on the line and how injured he looked before then, probably his best performance to date, playoff wise.
Sure.
It was. Here's an interesting stat. So, in the history of the NBA playoffs, there have only been 3 players who have accounted for, either through scoring or assisting, 80% of their team's made baskets in the history of the NBA playoffs, and that's Allen Iverson, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic last night. Luka Doncic, through either scoring or assisting, is number 1 on that list. And it's like 80. Hold on, I'll give you the exact number, because it was 31 of 37 made field goals, which is 83.8% of all of Dallas's made field goals. He either scored or assisted on. It's the highest in the history of the NBA playoffs. That's insane. That is a one-man juggernaut putting the team on his back. Insanity.
Well, let me chime in real fast. So the year Allen Iverson did that, is that the year they made the finals?
Yes, it is.
And the year LeBron did that, was that the year they made the finals?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Now, both teams lost. Both years,
They
both
did.
teams lost in the finals.
San Antonio, both of no, it was Lakers to the that's where the Ty Lue picture comes from.
Yeah,
the famous So Philly lost to the Lakers, and then the San Antonio Spurs beat LeBron. LeBron has bad luck with Texas teams in the finals, by the way, but
yes,
that's a story for another pod.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's a pretty remarkable feat that Luka pulled off. It was terrific. So
before you move on to the next point, I pulled up two stats that I wanted to share with our listeners about Luka in case they have not heard. I'm sure it was on the radio today. I didn't listen, but I found these on Twitter. One is by StatMuse, which is I play fantasy basketball, so they're kind of a cool thing to follow there. But the highest playoff points per game of all time with 10 games, a minimum of 10 games played. Michael Jordan, 33.4. And our Luka, 32.8 at number 2.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive, right? Through 10 games so far.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a small sample size, 10 playoff games, but I mean, he's had one not great playoff game in out of those 10, and it was because he couldn't look left. His neck was working.
What's even more crazy about that, he's 5th right now, all time scoring in his first 11 total games in the playoffs, right? And he would be 3rd, maybe even 2nd if it wasn't for that neck injury that one game, because he's only 18 points behind number 2.
Wow.
It's like 30 points behind Jordan, so he wouldn't have got that anyway if he was healthy, because I'm sure he could have he scored 19 that injured game. So his par for the course is 35-40 on the series. So he would be number 2 all time in that category as well in most points scored. So that's freaking nuts, man. Like,
well, and then what you also have to factor is the assisting and the assists and the rebounding. You know, like we're talking about put the scoring up there with Jordan. And don't get me wrong, Jordan was great at a lot of things, but assists and rebounds, neither one of those were his thing. And Luka had 14 assists and 8
he just played steals and all around defense was Jordan's thing.
Yeah,
besides, that was his
so Luka is we're witnessing something amazing. Even if we don't win this series, it was amazing to see.
And Bradley Beal was kind of mum in his post-game preference yesterday and was throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there, not trying to,
Although I'll throw something else out there. One thing I learned, maybe, and I've kind of been thinking it, kind of going back and forth. And again, this is really more of a thought for a later day. But last night's game kind of cemented for me that I want us at some point in the next year or two to find a way to get a legit, actual big man on this team.
I know.
Like Dwight Powell on steroids type big man. I want a 2005 Amari Stoudemire on this team. Somebody who can play the pick and roll and really roll to the basket. And oh God, it'd be lovely to see.
Well, we called it. That's the story of the game was that Rick was going to go big and was not going to stop.
Yeah.
He was not going to break to that small lineup, no matter how many threes they hit to begin the game. I mean, they I think their first 4 shots were 3-pointers, and Rick did not go away from Boban. He brought in Powell and Kleba, and we talked about that too. Remember about playing that duo together? So very intriguing. We talked about Boban and KP starting, which is what happened. Obviously, I talked about Josh Green. That did not happen, which is fine. I was just thinking of energy ball, kind of like what we got from Powell. Just Dorian Finney-Smith and Tim Hardaway hit the shots they weren't hitting in Dallas in the 2 games we lost. Luka was finding a way to get them space, and they were either driving, making the extra pass instead of trying, because in Dallas, DFS gets the ball And it's where he would normally make a three, and his three-point percentage has been much, much better this year. And he's been second guessing it because of how fast they crowd, right? And this time he either took the shot or got the pass off instead of getting stuck because he tried to, then think about it, hesitated, and then they're stuck. And same thing for Timmy. Timmy first play of the game, it was evident he wasn't going to fuck around. He was like, okay, you're going to come at me. I'm going to drive for the basket immediately. And there's free throws.
And the problem for Dorian has been he doesn't really have that in his game. Timmy can do that. It's not
he's fast, man. He's fast. He can drive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. He's a shooter first and foremost, but he's got that in his bag. Dorian doesn't really have that in his bag.
That's what he needs to develop. He needs a mid-range. He needs a lot. He's so improved in the last 2 years. Like it's crazy, but he needs some work. But we need him to do what he did. If Tim and Timmy do what they did, this team is not losing. Because KP I don't know if KP can do much worse. Like, I don't know if it can get much worse right now. I'm almost on team start Powell and Boban and let KP come off the bench, honestly.
Here's the thing. Before we crush KP, let's give him some credit.
That he did have.
Three he hit in the fourth quarter was
huge.
I mean, arguably, again, the biggest shot of his career up to this point.
And Timmy hit one right before that, back-to-back. Yeah. Those threes were so ginormous.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I mean, without those, if those two rim out, we probably lose that game.
And Dwight Powell in the third quarter. So we went down, I want to say 7 points, and it was looking like, okay, this is
pull away.
This is what we're worried about. We, no defensive stops, whatever. And Powell came in the third, and we went like on a 16-0 run.
Yeah,
and that was like his giant fuck you to every MFFL that has been talking shit about him all year. Because man, did he ever come with it. And he was the catalyst to, I talk about game 1, Willie Cauley-Stein was the third quarter catalyst in that game. It's funny because these huge games that define series, like game 1 versus the Lakers in 2011, it was Corey Brewer.
Yeah.
It was a big reason why the Mavs were able to take it, right? Game 1 in this series, Willie Cauley-Stein in the third all the way. And it's funny how it's always the third. And I'm sitting here terrified, knowing we're going to sit Luka for 3 minutes with the lead that we had. And I knew they were going to come back on us a little bit, and we just had to maintain the run, survive the run. And I am confident in the Mavs right now because, boy, in the fourth quarter, I know you weren't able to watch the fourth. They missed so many bunnies, dude. Like Luka, I don't know, maybe some of the numbness was coming in. His shot was a little bit off. Maybe it was kind of getting sore, right? But all of them, like Tim Hardaway had some great looks. DFS, some great looks. They made them when it counted at the end, right? But there were like Luka's little fadeaways, posts. They weren't there.
Not dropped.
So I'm hoping 2 more days rest or another day's rest, and he's a little closer to being a complete game, or maybe it was just dumb luck. But man, it was down to the wire, and this team showed moxie. And boy, having bigs down there fucked with Kawhi.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it absolutely did. That having bigs and the zone, right? Because that's the whole thing about the 2-3 zone or the 3-2 zone is it'll you can get off 3-pointers, you can get off jump shots, but it makes it pretty tough to drive to the basket. And the whole thing is what was so crushing about game 4, specifically game 4, was just how they were driving on us at will. They weren't, they're the best 3-point shooting team in the league this year, but they weren't, that's not what was killing us. It was the drives to the basket, Kawhi and Paul George just walking right down the lane. And again, I don't know if they're going to come back out with that same kind of thing with starting Boban and starting 2 bigs and the 2-3 zone or not. I don't know if they're going to do it in game 6, but it made the Clippers have to hit those shots, and they had a hard time doing it.
And it's beautiful too that's exactly what you and I talked about. We were talking about what we thought needed to happen, and we
didn't think it was
on the recording.
Yeah,
proofs on the recording. We talked about the two guys who were the difference, and we talked about the zone difference, about making them shoot and not not get to the hole, and it's exactly what happened. This team can play that. This team's talented enough to play with them. And man, this is wild. You know, you've got tonight, there's two games, potential game series, two series ending. The Mavs could be the last series standing technically tomorrow. If Utah wins, not Utah, I'm sorry, if Denver wins tonight and Phoenix wins tonight, right? I honestly think they're both going to be game sevens on Saturday. Both games. I think tonight, because Vegas thinks that as well right now. They think Lakers and Portland win and force game sevens. So we shall see. But the West is, man, the East, just everybody, boom, you know, 5-game series, 4-game series, 5-game series. And out here, it's looking like we might get possibly, you know, we for sure have 3-game sixes. So we'll see about the rest. But it's crazy to think where we've come. And it's hard for me before we get into preparation for game 7 is, you know, that's the thing about that I love about doing a podcast and putting things to recording, because you and I are, you know, very emphatic in our defense on the Mavs, and we both thought they were going to lose, like I stated earlier in the recording, because we just didn't think our leader, our guy, was going to be, we thought he was going to be a shell of himself, and just this team needs him to do just best player in the NBA type things to be able to hang with a team like the Clippers right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, like you're saying there, we didn't think he was going to be right. But if I'm a firm believer, even though he has yet to win anything in the NBA significant, you know, never even made it to a conference finals. If you're going to tell me going into any game, I don't care what game it is, if it's just one game, I'm not going to bet against Luka. I'm just not going to do it. I'm at that point in my trust in him. And I'm going to be wrong a lot, but that dude's unreal.
Yeah, I will not bet against him again. And the gold thing too is all the NBA players watch these games.
Yeah.
All of them watch these games. You want to talk about the ultimate way to get the Bradley Beals, the whatever your heart desire free agents here. Yeah. You see how he's like driving to the hole and creating for Tim Hardaway. You know, he's trusting Tim Hardaway in a playoff game. Now, I think Tim Hardaway's a good player, right? But that's like Curry trusting Clay. That makes way more sense than Luka trusting Tim Hardaway in a game like that. You know, that's Russell Westbrook with Bradley Beal. That makes more sense. It's the people that he's actually saying, I know Kleba can make this shot, or I know, and that's saying a lot. Just wait, you know, the best is yet to come for sure. Yeah. And man, that was one of the most nerve-wracking best games I've ever watched. I was up. It's going to be an early night for me, I hope. Maybe not. I got some personal stuff going on that might not, you know, let that happen at the moment. But man, I just smiled ear to ear. I think I was up to like 2 a.m. Just taking it all and watching the team. I was hoping Charles Barkley was on TNT. He wasn't. Draymond Green replaced him for the evening because I wanted to hear, because, you know, he guaranteed they weren't going to win. I wanted to hear his thoughts. So let's roll into game 6, if that's okay with you, unless you got anything else you want to add on the game.
Not at all. No, I mean, we've covered it all. It's, you know, they were
all right.
Yeah, we're good.
So game 6, Ty Lue. Let's talk about the Clippers first. Do we think he's going to change up what 1-2 games? Or is he going to go big now and put Zubac back in the lineup? Because I think Rick's going to stick with it. I think he's going to stay small.
I think he's going to stay small. And because I think he's going to bet that, and I think it's probably the smarter move by him, is you play that game 10 times, you know, I think they probably hit their shots. That a lot of the shots that they were missing are going to fall in 5 or 6 of those games. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
He's going to play the average that the best 3-point shooting team in the league is going to be able to beat you with 3-point shots if that's what you're going to give them. That's what I think. Plus, I think he also knows that putting Zubac out there is a recipe for disaster in the long term for them, because Luka's gonna force the switch and then destroy him time and time and time again.
I've heard multiple NBA analysts saying that they need to double team Luka and not do that. So do you think he's going to try something like that? So he hasn't yet, but we're talking about Ty Lue, and that's the difference between a guy like Rick Carlisle and Ty Lue. Is Rick Carlisle doesn't give a flying fuck what the media thinks. Ty Lue's listening to them, and that's just the kind of guy that he is, right? I'm sure he's a very nice family man. As far as coaching goes, I understand what I'm dealing with here. So do you expect them to give Luka, because what they're doing versus Luka, if Luka is playing like this, they're going to lose if they can't, or they're just going to continue to do what they do and shut everybody else down and just make him, hey, if he scores 40 but Tim Hardaway gets 10, we're good.
I think it's going to be one of those things where, I don't know. I think they're going to, because he has yet to really, really focus in on Luka, I think they're going to try it. I don't think it's the right play. Because number one, Luka is one of the handful of players in the league that it's basically impossible to really truly double team because of his size, his movement ability. Not that he's fast, right? Because he's not really fast, but he has an agility and a nimbleness and kind of a fluidity that he can split double teams no problem. He can split a double team because of his size and strength and fluidity. But also his passing ability. If you double team him, he's going to find an open man. And, yes, that's what they're saying. Okay, let's let everybody else beat us. But there's enough shooters on the Mavericks where I think that's going to be poison that they're not going to be able to handle.
So my thoughts on that are this. I do think something's going to change, and he's going to have to. I think that there's a lot of pressure, especially, he's hearing the pressure that this is it. This is one game for their season, right? I watched in the third and fourth quarter so many things not be fouls versus the Mavs. It was maddening. Like 2 for sure layups. Luka did not get free throw attempts, and then I watched Boban get like beat the fuck down by 3 people, right? Those calls are happening for the Mavs in Dallas.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think buckle up. I'm glad it's a Friday game, because this game's going to take like 3 hours. There's going to be a lot of clock stoppages, a lot of free throw shooting, I think.
We find Marcus Morris be his self that we all know that he is, which is a scum fuck.
Yeah.
And he, that finally made an appearance, and I think we'll see some more of that on Friday.
I can't believe they had to review Boban for a flagrant foul. He's like the nicest guy in the world. He didn't mean to hit Terrence Mann in the face. No. He didn't mean to at all. I think the Clippers, I think their swagger. I think, man, I don't know, man. Like when LeBron did what he did with the Heat and joined up for a super team, eventually talent wins, if that makes sense, right? And because karma is a thing and it comes your way. And the Dallas Mavs in 2011 were the perfect storm of just the right team, the right everything, the dramatic comebacks they had that year. I'm not saying this team is the 2011 Mavs. Okay, we're taking this one game at a time right now to see what they got, right? But I am saying this: the way Kawhi, not the way he left Toronto. He had every right to leave Toronto. He was traded there. Okay, he had every right in the world to seek out free agency, every right in the world to be schmoozed and everything else. But he's an asshole. He handled the situation really oddly, in my opinion. Especially when some of that like behind the scenes stuff came out. I won't bore you listeners with it on the podcast, but he's kind of like his uncle wanting things promised and everything else. Kind of lame.
If you're if the listeners are interested, the information's out there. It's out there in available. So that's
all. And then all of a sudden you wake up, you hear not only, because it happened at like 2 a.m. in the morning, not only did Kawhi Leonard choose the Clippers, but Paul George went to free agency and they ended Oklahoma, and just after he signed it. So something has to like give. Like if I'm and this sounds fucked up because the NBA is not fixed, although there are weird things that have happened before. But to me, it feels like sometimes the karma corrects itself to straighten everyone out and teach them a lesson, if that makes sense.
Sure. And look, it doesn't always happen, but it does have a way to balance out some of that stuff. I will say this, and you said it a second ago, talent usually wins out. That's not always true in every sport. The NFL is the most talented team. Very rarely does the most talented team win the Super Bowl.
They have one game.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of where we are right now is the Mavs. It's just one game.
Exactly.
That's all they have to do. Like they can treat this like it's a game 7, and they will. Yeah. You don't lose this game at home. The Mavs will not lose this game at home.
Especially it'd be one thing if you're going against, if you're going against, I don't care, pick a different team, almost any other team. But when you're going against a competitor like Kawhi Leonard, you do not want to give him the chance to feel the pressure of a game 7 in his home arena and leave it up to the possibility of him just dying. I mean, he has at different points put the Clippers team on his back during this series. You don't want to let it get to a game 7. You win this game.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, I think you get on the plane and you're like, fuck, we thought we were going to sweep these boys or at least win 3 games, and they came to our home and they got us. Yeah. We know what it takes. We know what this is. This is what we got to do. So it's interesting. And once again, I blame a lot of it on youth. We've talked about the whole length of our podcast about Luka being 22, excuse me. And, just, he doesn't know yet, man. Like, he doesn't know what to talk to his teammates about and how to check them, we talk about Tom Brady in the Super Bowl sending, texting everyone the night before about think about your championship speech and everything else, right? That's what you do when you've been in the league a decade, you've been there. You got a 22-year-old kid who's awesome. And he doesn't, he's probably stand up playing Fortnite. I don't know like what his ritual is before games, but it's definitely something that he's gonna eclipse to. And I think that they woke up because of that, because they got manhandled in their own building, and it's gonna be a ruckus place. I cannot wait to hear. I'm gonna watch the game on. I know you're gonna be watching it on the whatever network it's on. I think ESPN. I'm gonna watch it on Bally Sports because they give you the full audio of the crowd. It's freaking nutso. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, it was really cool at the beginning of game 3, watching, the Mavs fans go nuts. So I'm going to make sure that I watch that broadcast tomorrow night. But I think the Mavs are going to win. And I think Rick stays. The only thing I think Rick would do, and he's not ballsy enough. Rick's a ballsy motherfucker, but he's not doing it. That I would bench KP's ass, not because I don't want him to play. I put him on the bench and let him see the game and then let him, come that way. That's what I would do. And play pal, but he won't do that, and that's okay. And that's okay because we're fine with what we do. I think we just need to keep the same rotation, and we'll be fine.
I think I get where you're coming. I think the problem is KP is. I think we would all agree at this point that KP is a little bit, weak up here, right? Weak-minded. And I think
he's feeling it, man. He's just not where he needs to be. My dog is behind my TV right now, going crazy, just like KP. There she is.
If I think the catch is, I think benching him would escalate that problem even further.
Oh, sure. It'd be like the Rondo situation. When you bench KP, you're not playing him again.
Yeah. And the problem,
coincidentally, in game 3 or game 5, excuse me, when he got 3 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the quarter and they benched him for Powell, that's when we went on the run. So
shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, the catch there, what the truth is, what you really hope for is for KP to get hot, really, really hot in this game and into the next series. So that way, when you get into the offseason, you can actually trade him for something of value. That's what we got to hope for. But again, thoughts for another day.
Well, my pre-series prediction was Mavs in 6, and I'm planting the flag, man. I'm sorry that I will never doubt a person with an injury ever again until I see it. I did have a disclaimer. I said we'll know within the first 5 minutes how he's going to play.
And it
And
was
sure as shit, he had 4 3-pointers in the first 3 minutes. So we kind of were sure what was going to go down and what was going to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, he came out on fire. So it's going to be interesting. I'm back on Mavs and
It
six.
is because the Clippers are a better team. You have to just out coach and out scheme and out heart.
Which they can, the hearting part is tough because you can't argue about Kawhi's heart, right?
No, not at all.
So the heart
George, is iffy. Paul George is iffy. I question his heart completely.
No doubt. Paul George is that team's KP. But
he's a better version.
Yeah, exactly. And he's had a much better series than our KP. But no doubt, no question whatsoever, Rick Carlisle is a better coach. Mm-hmm. And I like up to this point, I would argue that Luka and Carlisle are the only reason that we are where we are.
Sure.
And hopefully, like we talked about it a few podcasts ago, some people were starting to squawk a little bit about maybe it's time to move on from Carlisle. And hopefully enough people actually realize what they're watching and that can stop.
Sure.
I don't want to hear any of that nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 games we lost, game 3 was just wild, right? Game 4 was completely the injury. You can't put that on Rick. I mean, you like not at all. Like Rick Carlisle is, man, him and Luka, like I said, it's right there. Like the only issue I have with Rick as a coach is the beginning of the season, finding his adjustments. He finding what roster he's going to rock with. He likes to tinker, which is fine. But the first 10 or so games is always him just figuring it out. And that cost us some games. Now, in the great scheme of things, let's say it cost us 3 games this year, we would still be playing the Clippers. So what does it matter? Sure. Right? So you take that for what that is. But then you also throw in the COVID situation that happened, the KP injuries, the back-to-backs. Maybe you're talking about 7 wins and you're talking about this team being a 3 seed. So I guess you can talk about that a little bit. You can kind of say, hey, and if in a perfect world, if all these things were not like the other, that's a thing. So hopefully going into next year, that's a thing that he can address, but I doubt it because it'll be a different roster. Obviously, it's not going to be the same. And where I was going with this was the one issue that the Mavs possibly could have for game 6 for losing is that the Mavs team, for what it is, and as talented as the Clippers are, if the Clippers get off to a big lead or figure something out, it's on Rick to adjust for game 7. It's not really something he can fix in game just because of the lack of just true. I mean, we have, man, I go to battle, love watching these guys, love cheering for them, but it's very, very evident that the more talented roster 100% is on the Clipper side. Sure. So if the game plan is not there from the get-go and something throws in the chink of that's an issue. But I'm confident he can adjust that to game 7 to give us a good chance to win. That being said, game 6, it's going to go down. I don't think Ty Lue's going to throw anything they're not prepared for. It's just all about making shots and being aggressive. They wanted to make threes in game 5, the Mavs, but they were not afraid to drive to the basket. It was 100% evident, and it was beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
More of the same, man. More of the same. And game 6 will be a victory. And holy shit, that's going to be wild. Like I can get used to this, man. We have Dallas Stars, making a playoff run last year. Got them. I mean, let's do it, man. You're talking about the Cowboys winning 12 games. Like, we got the Rangers about to lose 12 in a row. Like, these streaks or something.
Yeah. The Rangers. Let's not even talk about that.
We talked about so much. They were so fun for it's June every damn year, dude. Jeez Louise. All right. So go Mavs. Luka is going to score 46 points, bold prediction, and the Mavs are going to send the Clippers home packing Friday night. Booyah. Right. Triple-double, 46, by the way. Yes.
Okay. I approve that.
All right. Anything else you want to add? Or are we done, Ski?
I'm done.
All right. Thank you for listening to our post-game reaction / pre-game preparation. I think that's what you call it. And go Mavs, let's win game 6. Rock and roll.